What is up, Earth's mightiest subscribers? It's Ernie Blerd without fear. Welcome back to the channel. Alright, so today we're talking about Excalibur number 19 by Tini Howard and Marcus Toe, and in this video we are going to learn exactly who was piloting the body of Betsy Braddock in the previous issue and running roughshod all over the lighthouse at Krakoa. We're also going to learn exactly how petty Saturnyne is willing to be to stop Betsy Braddock from returning from being lost in the multiverse, and more importantly, we're going to witness Kwannon and Betsy have a moment that is almost 30 years overdue. We're gonna talk about all that and more right now, but first, let's hit that intro.
Word to wise, grass only greener when it's fertilized. Gave them truth in these songs, they prefer to lies. Destiny beautiful, adrift in her purple lies. You can't see me, you Stevie, wondering how I reach more evolutions than Evie and make it look easy.
Okay, so when we pick this book up, we learn that the Captains Britain have located Betsy Braddock, in large part, mostly thanks to Elspeth, who is one of the many different versions of Betsy Braddock across the multiverse. One who, instead of spending time honing her skill with a blade, or honing any form of other types of combat, she focused more on her telepathy and became, probably in her reality, on her Earth of 13,059, probably wouldn't be surprised to find out that she was very likely an Omega level telepath, but that's neither here nor there. It's not important. What happens is, using her psychic powers, she is able to track down Betsy Braddock. We learned in the previous issue that when Betsy Braddock went into the portal at the lighthouse, when that reality's version of Kwannon helped her break into the lighthouse and get to the portal, she didn't actually return to her body. Someone else was piloting the body that Mr. Sinister had cloned of Betsy Braddock for her brother Jamie. As a favor, originally the clone was meant to be of Jamie Braddock, but because of all the shenanigans and Ten of Swords, Jamie felt some sort of remorse and decided to have a body of Betsy Braddock made instead. But Betsy, when she went through the portal, didn't return to that body, or any body for that matter. Someone else was piloting Betsy's body, and while Kwannon was able to knock this imposter Betsy Braddock out, the rest of Excalibur has no clue where the real Betsy Braddock is. Basically what's going on here is that the Captains Britain, they tried to bring Betsy's soul, her essence, to her royal highness, Queen Opal Luna Saturnyne, but Saturnyne doesn't want to do it because, once again, Saturnyne is petty and does not like Betsy Braddock and does not want her returned. It's bad enough that the Captain Britain Corps is mostly made up of various and sundry versions of Betsy Braddock. It would be even worse if she actually had to bring Betsy Braddock back, because as she states, that Betsy Braddock is the worst of the Captain Britain Corps, at least by her estimation. But that's okay, because Elspeth knows that there's another way to get Betsy's soul and essence back to where it belongs, because that's the whole belief, that if they get her essence back to the reality, her natural reality, the rest will work itself out. So what are they going to do if they can't go through Opal Luna Saturnyne? Well, guess where they're going to go? They are going to circumvent Saturnyne's ability to restore Betsy Braddock and return her to Excalibur. But wait, how would they do that? Well, of course, there's the Avalon Gate. It's the one gate in and out of Earth from Otherworld. And that's exactly what they are going to do. They are going to use said gate and return Betsy back to Excalibur. And this is where we get into all sorts of magical shenanigans with the entire team trying to recreate a spell based on Apocalypse's notes, thanks to Richter. Richter is racking his brain trying to use all sorts of spells and variations, and we kind of see here in this comic that Richter has literally been at his wit's end. He's actually acting very un-Richter for a change. A character who for the most part has been pretty cool, laid back, and very understanding throughout all these proceedings. He has become incredibly angry, very irritable, and largely because he's been fasting, not eating, because that's a part of the magic. His body and mind must be empty. And we can even see in some of the the exposition pages where we see that he has actually scribbled out and rotated and moved things around in a spell that is supposed to put Betsy's spirit back into her body. The problem here is that something is not working, and Kwannon seems to have some kind of insight into this. Kwannon feels like someone is deliberately sabotaging the spell. The person sabotaging the spell is Betsy. She doesn't want to come back. She doesn't want to be found. She's been bouncing throughout the multiverse, and honestly, she probably was happier bouncing across each part of the multiverse and not being back on Earth, because she feels as though she has failed. She feels as though everything she has done has been for naught. And leave it to Kwannon to be the one to kickstart things, and I mean kickstart quite literally, when she decides to ninja kick the damn rabbit, or rather ninja kick the damn lantern that is housing Betsy's essence, causing Betsy's essence to fly back into Otherworld and start wreaking havoc in some strange little village called Jackdaw's Nest, literally setting it on fire psionically. This leads to Kwannon having to chase after her, something that Brian Braddock is not comfortable with, nor is Rogue, but Kwannon is able to explain to them that the reason why she is going to be the one to go, and that why she is the best one to go after Betsy, is because they are connected in ways that no twin or no best friend could ever understand. They are linked in ways that are beyond human comprehension, and as Kwannon says on multiple occasions, she and Betsy will always be connected. It isn't to be solved, it simply is. There is no rhyme or reason behind why they are connected outside of what we already know, that they have shared a body. And to go deeper into it, the fact that, yeah, it is not anyone's place to decide why that is the case, why they should be connected. It is what it is. And this is something that Kwannon has to explain to Betsy. Betsy is putting up all kinds of psychic barriers and psychic deterrents to try and stop Kwannon from pursuing further and reaching out to her. And ultimately, they do have what I guess you could loosely call a psionic scuffle. At the end of the day, Kwannon is going to show her that she is not a failure, that even though, yes, she died, Quotey Fingers died during the battle in Ten of Swords, she is the person who wielded the Starlight Sword, the first person in the Captain Britain Corps to wield the Starlight Sword. That, in essence, makes her special. Not only that, she didn't lose in the battle at Ten of Swords. Now, yes, she did technically lose to Iska the Unbeaten, but she didn't lose in terms of restoring what needed to be restored, and that was the Captain Britain Corps, and that was done thanks to her. And though Betsy is trying everything in her power to deter Kwannon from trying to help her, Kwannon is not going to allow it. Kwannon is going to do something that I think shows great character growth in and of herself, something that I don't think we've seen even in the pages of Fallen Angels. I don't think we've even seen this in the pages of Hellions. I don't really think we've seen this kind of character growth from her in any capacity whatsoever until this very moment. And I think this is one of the moments that I think Tini Howard did a fantastic job with, and it's showing that Kwannon is willing to go so far to save Betsy, that she allows Betsy to do something to her that was probably one of the greatest crimes that has ever been committed against her. She knows that Betsy's soul, her essence, needs a host, that at some point, regardless of whatever it is that Betsy actually wants, she needs a host body, and her soul wants one. It has to have one. It wants to be somewhere, because otherwise it's going to destroy everything around it, whether Betsy realizes that or not. And what ultimately winds up happening is she allows Betsy's soul to enter her body. Right now, Kwannon and Betsy are now sharing the same body, something that was a huge point of contention for Kwannon ever since she got her body back. The fact that she hated Betsy for what had happened between them, and that even once she got past that, she still felt incredibly uneasy and just uncomfortable with Betsy being around her. And Betsy, I would even say the same, has felt uncomfortable and has felt just a great well of guilt over what happened to Kwannon. Whether it's been openly said or not, it's always kind of been alluded to. And right now, Kwannon is being the bigger person and allowing Betsy to exist in the same body as her to get her back home. And Betsy even tries to scare her and say, well, what if I try to take your body from you again? What if I try to snatch your body away? And it's here that Kwannon tells her, once again echoing those same lines from before, it is what it is, and what we have always been is what we will always be. We will always be forever linked. More importantly, the thing that is desperately needed is the Starlight Sword, something that is now going to be a core piece of the Captain Britain Corps, and this is something that Betsy still has possession of despite the fact that she was defeated in the Ten of Swords contest and was thought destroyed. Those pieces still exist. It is still there, and Saturnyne now knows it because Betsy, in her soul form, is able to still feel the presence of the Starlight Sword. The only problem is that she can't manifest it without a body. This is where, once again, Kwannon comes back into play, as they're going to resume being one unit, and this allows her to do so. And while Captain Avalon and Gambit argue about whether or not it has been too long and that one of them should go after Betsy Braddock, it's here that Kwannon returns to Krakoa, not just as Kwannon, but also as Betsy, wielding the Starlight Sword, albeit one that looks very different from the one that we saw in Ten of Swords, this one being a more psychic Starlight Sword variety. They're able to return Betsy's soul back to her body and the Starlight Sword with it. However, this is when we learn that something was amiss, and I guarantee you Mr. Sinister's fingerprints were all over it. You gotta remember, this is a body that Mr. Sinister created. When Betsy was put back in, she immediately began choking. We learned that the person that was piloting her body, I originally thought might have been Morgan Le Fay, considering that Morgan Le Fay is fated to come back, and she was technically right by Betsy's clone body. It would make sense if Morgan Le Fay was able to somehow bounce from her own body and take over Betsy's temporarily. Well, that wasn't actually the case. The person who took over her body is someone who Rogue and Betsy do have knowledge of, a character who is very familiar to them, a character who is also very familiar to Mr. Sinister themselves, a character who was also one of the original Recipe Marauders, a character by the name of Malice. Now, Malice is an interesting character, a character who first appeared in Uncanny X-Men number 210 back in 1986. Malice is a character who is a mutant who has the ability to basically be pure psionic energy, and in that form, she can, well, for all intents and purposes, she can merge herself with another sentient being, and whenever she takes over a person's body, a black choker appears around their neck with a silver medallion on it, much like what we saw Betsy choke up. And this character, this entity, Malice, she's typically always in her psionic energy form. She rarely, if ever, has had a body of her own, and right now, she has escaped through the Krakoan gate and has gone somewhere else. She tried to possess Rogue at first, but Rogue was able to shut her out. And now that she has shot herself through the Krakoan gate, she now has an entire island of people who she could potentially take over. She could be anywhere. She could literally be anyone. The issue here with this, and I think this is what's going to probably kind of make for, and depending on how it's written, could make for either a good or bad storyline here, is the fact that she is, yes, Malice is a mutant. She is, by all rights and purposes, she belongs on Krakoa. The problem I think you're going to run into is the fact that, yeah, she belongs on Krakoa. She's technically welcome on Krakoa, but I'm pretty sure her antics won't be welcome on Krakoa, but I think ultimately she should be given a chance. If you're gonna give characters like Grey Crow a chance, you know, the formerly known Scalp Hunter character who was one of the original Recipe Marauders and one of the proponents of the Mutant Massacre that damn near wiped out the Morlocks off the face of the planet, yeah, I don't know. I feel like she should be given a chance, but the way that she is going about doing what she is doing, trying to get a body of some sort, I don't know. I feel like all of this could technically be fixed if she just says, hey, can you just make me a clone body? And, you know, no more shenanigans. You know what I'm saying? Like that's one of those things where I'm kind of like, I could easily like fix this just with a few words. But that said, I don't know. I don't know where Teenie Howard's going with this. And honestly, I'm not going to pretend that I know where Teenie Howard is going with this. I'm curious to see how it plays out, but Malice is a character who I haven't really thought about very much in recent memory. Honestly, if I'm going to think about any character by the name of Malice, I typically think of the character that most people are familiar with and typically call Nakia, the character that is from the Black Panther corner of the Marvel Comics universe, who is also named Malice in the comics, but that's neither here nor there. If you enjoyed this video, Hulk smash that like button and make sure to share this video all over the internet with all your friends so that they'll know how you leveled up your comic book big brain in regards to Excalibur and Reign of X. Also, on your way out, make sure to hit that subscribe button and let me know what you thought about Excalibur number 19. Keep it plus ultra and sound off in the comments.